happy to have this conversation with me. For anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay, this is MaryLee Labay. I believe she's a legend. She was my hypnotherapy teacher back in 2011 when I was in Seattle at Bastyr University. And I've recently come back and kind of rediscovered those hypnotherapeutic roots and how powerful this medicine is. And as a naturopathic doctor, I do use this in my practice on a daily basis, MaryLee. It has come full circle. It's come back around. I'm incorporating it more and more now. And I would love to, first just tell you how much I appreciate you and how grateful I am for that training and for that knowledge. And I would love to know from you, what is hypnotherapy? How can you explain hypnotherapy to anyone listening to this now? Maybe we can jump into that real quick.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, it was delightful to have you in my classroom. And it's great that we've stayed connected over all these years. I love staying connected to my students, my graduates, and, just supporting in any way that I can. Hypnotherapy is really a focused state of mind. It's very similar to when you're going into meditation. So you're coming out of the more scattered or analysis brain, decision making and all of that, the normal waking consciousness, and focusing and slowing the brain wave. The brain waves down to a level that is more meditative, because then we do create focus, we create connection between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. We're able to communicate with spirit guides, we're able to get a lot of wisdom from our higher self as to what is going on in our lives and how we can fix things that aren't going the way we want them.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. I love that. And I've seen that in the clients that I work with. And I have to say, MaryLee, when I began, I graduated from medical school in 2016 from Bastyr. I started practicing immediately. I was in private practice doing patient care, doing pretty much primary care for 3 years. But with every patient, I always thought to myself, oh God, we need to go deeper. We need to go deeper, deeper. There was like this need to just look beyond the lab values and the supplements. Vitamin D isn't going to cure your trauma, right? There was just always that feeling inside me that, like, I know this person has deeper work to do, and I just wish that I could have helped them back then. But now I'm incorporating these things and helping people drop into that subconscious state. So to me, it's much like using plant medicine without having to take plant medicine, right? Like, you can drop into these subconscious states and access those memories or the higher self, higher guided information. The spirit guides are such a unique and just rich, kind of delicious part of these experiences. And I would love to know, MaryLee, how did you get into this, or how did hypnosis find you, which is typically how it goes, right?
It actually really did find me. I started out, I'm looking at, even in my childhood, I was believing in past lives, and I knew there was something more to the world than just this physical existence and the things that we were seeing in the physical. And then I grew up through the 60s, so, it was a lot about self-realization and just the processes we were going through. I started with tarot and astrology and was practicing that, but always really interested in psychology and into what made people tick and, what was going on deeper inside, psychic worlds, all of that. So I received my first past life regression in 1986, And to me, it just like blew my world open, and I just wanted to tell everybody. It was like, oh my God, I had this experience. You need to do it too. And I was so excited. Well, of course, not everybody took well to that. A lot of people didn't think it was real, or, had concerns about past lives. So I realized I needed to be a little quieter about my exploration. But, a friend, well, even in the 70s, I think I read Jose Silva's The Silva Mind Control. And I'm rereading it right now because I'm finding now that I have all the experience in my life, going back and rereading that, I'm realizing that what he was talking about was exactly what we do. But anyway, so I had been introduced to that sort of mind control information. And then another friend introduced me to hypnotherapy, and I kind of looked into it and never really took. And then I finally took my certification, and I did a 300-hour clinical hypnotherapy certification. And it rocked my world again, realizing the power of what we had available to us to get into the deeper roots of things and to understand how each unique person has built their life brick by brick and created the conditions that we're living in and created the attitudes and the feelings that we have about things. And then, so once I got my certification, I married it together with this body of information that I have about past life regression, because that had become, my mission was to experience my past lives and to help other people experience it. And so now what I taught you and what I'm teaching now in my classes is really a compendium of all sorts of techniques that I have uniquely brought together, woven together to be able to do this really deep, wonderful, juicy, yummy, delicious work that we do. And over the years, I met you through Bastyr University when I was teaching there, but through that, I taught a lot of naturopaths, massage therapists, acupuncturists, nutritionists, all sorts of alternative or complementary medical practitioners, as well as regular doctors and psychologists and coaches and all sorts of people. And they've all incorporated that into the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And everybody comes back and says, oh my God, this made it so much more powerful, Yeah.
Okay, great. I have a couple questions based on what you just talked about. The first one being, I'm sure you've seen the progression and the evolution of hypnosis and hypnosis being taken seriously and actually being studied, right? It went from stage hypnosis, right? Like holding the pendulum, and I think there was a lot of fear surrounding hypnosis based on the fact that we access some of these different realms. Where do you think we're going with hypnosis? Do you think this forward progression is going to continue, that it's going to become more mainstream or become more accepted in many ways? What is your take on that?
Well, it has. I've been in practice 25 years, and I was doing past life regression for, 5 or actually 10 years before that. And the evolution of this has been remarkable. Yeah. So, I think that it's interesting because a lot of people think of hypnotherapy as weight loss and smoking. So they'll turn to that. They'll go, oh, I'm going to get hypnotized and I'll lose weight, right? But it's so much bigger than that. I've worked with clients who have cancer, who have fibromyalgia. Like people that you would see in your office with, really strong issues going on. And, it's good to work together with the medical community or the complementary medical community, where we can have solutions together. And so, yeah, now it's interesting because for a long time people would say, I tried everything else. I went to all the other practitioners, and now I'm coming to you. It was like, this is last ditch effort, right? And now people are making the choice up front. I had a parent that said, you know, my child has obsessive compulsive disorder, and
Mm.
before I take them to a psychiatrist where they're going to be given medication that they'll be on for the rest of their lives, I want to bring him to you and see what we can do. And he was about 15, 14. I think he turned 15 this summer that I worked with him. And we were able to get him over it completely within about 3 to 5 one-hour sessions. It
Wow.
was completely done. And about a couple years later, I ran into him because, you know, he lives in the vicinity and
Mhm.
he had a summer job. And I said, hey, how have things been going, you know? And he said, it never came back. And can you imagine that? I know. And
Amazing.
alternatively, they would have taken him to a doctor, they would have put him on medication, they would
Right.
have masked all of the symptoms rather than just getting down to what it is and fixing it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and there are times when psychiatry is right. You know, I have referred people there because the medication, you know, sometimes a client needs the medication so that they can be focused long enough to allow the changes to happen. You
Mhm.
know, so of course there's room for everybody in this process, but I love it when people come early on and not wait until the symptoms are so bad that they're difficult to deal with, you know, or things have set into their bodies so strongly. Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
On the medical side of it, most of my clients, or I'd say, yeah, a good majority of my clients are seeking a lot of personal discovery, you
yeah.
know, really working on resolving childhood trauma, sexual abuse, anxiety, worries, you know, relationship breakups, and of course, all the spiritual quests
Yeah.
of, you know, exploring past lives and, um, you know, communicating the spirit guides and all the really deep spiritual processes that they're striving for, meaning in life. You know, I want to have meaning in my life instead of just walking through, um, you know, punching the time clock.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that's something I really work with my clients with is like finding that sense of purpose and that sense of passion. And you can access that using these tools, using hypnosis. So just drop down a little deeper. I'm always encouraging people do the deeper work. Like, and let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, because I want to go back to past life regression. I would love for you to tell our viewers a little bit more about that. And I would also love to touch on this fear that I find people when I'm doing discovery calls or I'm speaking with people there. Some people are afraid to go back and look at it or access it, or there's just this fear like I don't want to look at that. I don't want to relive it. What would you say to someone who's like, yeah, that's me. I don't want to relive it or look at it, you know, in a gentle way, and which I know you're so gentle in the way you are, but like, when you get that pushback from someone, how would you respond?
Well, so what I tell my clients is that all of these experiences are working on us at a subconscious level. Whether we look at it or not, they are there. They are in our history and in our subconscious mind. And so there's a lot of effort that has to take place in order to keep that closet door closed, you know, just to keep it walled off really takes a lot of effort. And not only that, but in order to not see a part of your life or deal with it, it actually shrinks your consciousness. So you'll be less psychic, you'll be less intuitive, you'll be less
Ooh.
present, you'll be less
Mm.
available because you can't get triggered, you know, you can't allow yourself to be triggered. And so it really limits the scope of your experience or your consciousness. So you can spend your lifetime doing that And in the next lifetime, you'll carry all that baggage over with you. Yay. You know, and it's going to be affecting your choices, not only in this lifetime, but in the coming lifetime. In fact, I had a client this morning that we ended up going into a past life, and part of it was discovering that, you know, choosing this negative father experience in this lifetime was a total reflection on something that had happened in a past life. And, you know, so I took her into that, you know, into a past life, and we could see the connections. And so if that had been dealt with in a given lifetime, she
Mhm.
wouldn't have made the choice to come into this lifetime and have that experience. And so in the same way, the trauma that we experience, and we all have trauma, and we all have it in every lifetime.
Yeah.
There's no lifetime where it's just smooth and sweet and nothing happens. And if it did, we'd probably just find a way to get in trouble, you know? Um, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, um, you know, by going through it, you can go through it and resolve it in an hour. In an hour,
Yeah.
and balance that out and have that smoothed out, so you no longer have to hide from it, you no longer have to deal with it, and it's resolved in an hour, maybe 2 hours, you know, maybe two sessions,
Yeah.
depending on the depth of it all. But why not just dig in and do it,
Mhm.
right? Just go there, get it over with, like getting a shot, you know? It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, nobody wants to do it, but just go do it, get it over with, and you're done, and you can be
Yeah.
good the rest of your life.
Mhm.
So,
You know, the image to me comes of standing on a bridge about to bungee jump, right? Or jumping out of a plane, or you know, there's several things I can relate that to. But I had that sense with my own father. Like, we resolve this in this life. I'm not
okay.
taking it to the next life. And I did everything in my power, and he and I came together and healed our relationship. And I remember when I had a breach in a friendship, you encouraged me to do the same thing, like work it out in this life. Don't take that into the next life. And I think that is such good advice for anyone. Just be brave enough to face it, because that's the only way you're going to work through it and to come out the other side. I love the saying, the only way out is in, right? The
Yeah,
only that's
exactly.
the only way. And I think we do this in such a loving and such a gentle, like, just like a cocoon of like, no, you're held in this container, and it is safe for you to venture and journey to these places that might seem a little scary at times.
Exactly. And when you, in hypnosis, and especially the way I do it and the way you would do it, because I taught you, you know, that container, like you say. But if you look at, say, a relationship, your relationship with your father, or, you know, a girlfriend, whatever that is, and you look at it through the span of infinite lifetimes, right? So whenever you're really close with somebody, a parent, a friend, a spouse, your children, you know, all these kinds of relationships, maybe you have a circle of friends, there's a reason why you come together. There's probably a soul connection.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't be in a romantic relationship or a family relationship if there hadn't been other lifetimes together. And there's going to have been experiences, both positive and negative. And and when we look at it in the context of this life, looking at it like, well, I'm just going to walk away because I'm really angry now, and you know, to hell with them, right? But if you look at it in the context of the bigger picture, and the healing and the process that you can work through in this lifetime, it's so much more valuable. Like, you know, I've had a difficulty with a friend, and then I look at all the lifetimes and I go, this is so insignificant in this lifetime. You
Mm.
know, why don't we just like get over it?
Mm.
Because I remember when you were my mother, my sister, my brother, my husband, my grandma, you know, my teacher. And why are we arguing about this? Why are we upset about this? Let's just, like figure out how we can both grow from this.
Mm,
And, hopefully we have relationships like that that can respond to that kind of request. But
yeah.
when we see it from the bigger picture, in fact, any situation like going into COVID, everybody was freaked out. And I was looking around and I was taking my time. I didn't want to jump into being freaked out. I wanted to do a little more research. And of course, we all got locked down for 2 years and went through all of this. And people were just hysterical. And some people still are. I still run into people who are hysterical over this. And I think back and I look at, and I think, don't you remember all the lifetimes that you've had trauma? Don't you remember the Black Plague when there were bodies piled up outside? You
Oh,
don't remember world wars?
mm,
Your memory is so short that, the least little infraction on your peace of mind will send a person like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
yeah.
Well, just expand your consciousness, expand your memory
Oh,
so that you can remember all the times that you have gone through. Don't you remember being a gladiator, fighting a lion in the Colosseum? Okay, COVID isn't that bad, is it?
oh,
You're going to die a terrible death.
yeah.
um,
And that builds
it-
resiliency. Like that for me, I took that information and thought, wow, like I'm more resilient than I give myself credit for. I think we all are, based on
Absolutely.
these traumatic lives that we've all lived. And this will be a nice segue into talking about past life regression. What is it? How do you do it? Whatever you want to share about it. I think like this is becoming a hot topic. I'm getting more and more requests for past life regression, and I would love to hear your expertise.
Well, yeah, it's huge. I've written 2 books on it, so I have a lot of information. So I'll try to narrow it down to a focus here. Past life regression is regressing to the memories that we've had of other lifetimes. It could be in the past, it could be in the future. We call it past life regression because we think of it, I think of it as chapters in a book. So we have one book, which is my life. I have one book, you have one book, and it's your life. And then it's divided into chapters, which we would call a lifetime. But we're really weaving in and out of the physical bodies and creating this storyline for this longer book, right? And in a healthy, normal human that had not had a lot of impressions over many lifetimes, we would easily remember our past lives like we're remembering what we did on our last vacation. We
Mhm.
would say, oh yeah, in the 500s I was doing this, and remember when you and I went picking grapes and we stomped on them and made wine, or whatever. We would have those memories that we would share. That's just a part of our consciousness. But because of either cultural indoctrination that says, no, there is no past life, and therefore you can't be remembering that, you're just making it up.
Mm,
Or because of fears, like, just like we're talking about, we have traumas and we try to just not look at them. We try to put them away somewhere. Well, if every lifetime has trauma, then when you die, you just like throw those, it's just like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. And
mhm,
so we consciously make decisions to not remember our other lifetimes.
mhm,
But they're there, and everybody is getting hints about them.
mhm,
We can get hints by listening to certain music and be taken away, or artwork. Aesthetics usually will, carry us. But also, if we think about our talents, we think about our interests, we think about the type of people that we're gravitating towards, or the type of topics that we typically, study up on or are interested in.
Yeah, that can lead you. That can be a hint to the past lives. I've always been interested in Himalayan art and Buddhist culture and meditation and just when I went back to Nepal, there was something so familiar about that place. Yet it was my first time in Nepal, but I was in the Himalayas. I was amongst the art, like you said, the culture, the art, the smell of the incense, the prayer flags. I mean, it hit me deeply, deeply. So
And they're
I
still
think,
wearing their costume. Well, we call them costumes, but they're still wearing their native clothes too.
yeah.
A lot of a lot of times, yeah.
I think that's good. That some of those things like deja vu or the music or what are we drawn to culturally? Like my son is obsessed with Japanese culture. He's teaching himself Japanese. Like, where did that come from? And also when he was a child and I was teaching him to swim, Mary Lee, he was unreasonably terrified of the water,
Ah,
right? And I'm a water baby. I have no fears about the ocean, but I thought to myself, oh dear, this must be past life related. Like, would you agree that when there are terrors and fears that aren't grounded in this lifetime, would that be wise to look at past lives?
absolutely, absolutely. I would say that those are very indicative of other lifetimes. In fact, one of the things that I tell people, in fact, I think I wrote about it in one of my books, look at the games you played as a child. What did you gravitate towards? What were your fantasies? What role did you play? My brother and his friends always played cowboys, right? So I was Annie Oakley, and I do have many lifetimes in the Wild West,
Oh,
right? And I always gravitated towards playing teacher. So I had a little blackboard and I'd bring my friends and I would teach them math or whatever.
mhm.
And here I am, a teacher, right? And I got a teaching scholarship in school and all that. So, you look at patterns that are flowing through your life. And in fact, I was just in a retreat last weekend and I was meditating, and I don't remember if it was a question I had or what, but what came to mind was I was being shown all the times throughout my life since I was just a wee child, when I was looking towards spirituality, looking in the air, trying to see what else was there, because I knew something was in the air
Hmm.
that wasn't visible and trying to see it. And I was just a kid. Nobody was teaching me this stuff,
Right.
right? My little girlfriend and I, when we were, well, I moved away from there when I was 10, but I remember being smaller than that. So I might have been 6 or 7. And we would play a game of who were we in another lifetime. And I know. And this is in the 50s.
Of
I mean, nobody was talking about this stuff.
course.
And some of my first books were like The Sleeping Prophet and, some of these stories about extra sensory things, even as a teen. And now it's just, you can go to the bookstore and buy all these things. But then we had hardly any books except for really esoteric things like Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky, which you couldn't even get through the book. It was so arcane. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. But, looking back at your own history and looking at what are the games you played? What were the things? I mean, I remember, I remember looking around going, I don't know where my ladies in waiting are. And of course, I had some queen lifetimes. But
Oh,
it was funny. It was like, where is my staff that would that would should be laying out my clothes for me? Where are my helpers? Where are my people? Um, Different things like that are really quite interesting now.
mm,
But and on the flip side, I remember being a slave. I remember being
oh,
enslaved, imprisoned, all of those things too. And for me, the broader experiences that we can have, the better. Our subconscious mind, our higher self, is looking for deep, deep experience. And that's why I cherish the challenges. I mean, sometimes people come in and they are totally distraught. They say, this is the worst thing. I can't take anymore.
Mhm.
This is too much for a person, a burden for a person to carry. And I just go, good for you. Awesome. Awesome. Now you know what you are capable of handling. Now let's unpack all of that,
Uh,
lighten your load, let's work with it. But if that's what it took for you to finally say, I'm going to go get help,
mhm.
then more power to you. I'm glad it got that bad, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And lesser people would have come in earlier, but you could handle even more. So good for you. So here you are. But not to be afraid of that or to pretend it isn't there, because that only makes it worse, to pretend that we don't have these challenges. But
Mhm.
these challenges, these extraordinary experiences, are what enrich our soul.
Mm.
So you went to Nepal. I've been to Tibet. I've been to like 75 countries, all over the place. I know you're a big world traveler, and immersing yourself into the cultures and, getting to know people and, trying new foods. I mean, it can be small things, it would seem, but expanding. I'm 71 now, and it's weird because everything I do now, or many, many things I do now, it just triggers all these memories because I have so many experiences. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like Italy. Oh, I remember the restaurant over here. Oh, this tastes like that. And which
Oh,
it's weird because I'm thinking, well, don't I have any new experiences? Something that's not,
mhm.
it takes a lot to go beyond all of this. I have jumped from an airplane. Uh,
Oh God. I,
I
I have not. That's not
oh,
something I want to do.
I
Uh,
recommend it. It's awesome.
oh, amazing.
Oh,
Amazing. So, I would love to hear from you. I just want to let everybody know that MaryLee has several online courses, right? For people who want to learn from you. I have included a link in my bio on it here on Instagram. If you want to check out MaryLee's programs, but maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about what you're offering. Are you still offering in person or are you just doing online? Tell us a little bit more.
yeah, so the courses are all online, so you can complete everything online if you just go through and do all the work. And then included with the two signature programs, the hypnotherapy and past life regression is one course. And then a second course that I have is transpersonal wellness coach. And so we can talk about each of those. Those also come with a set of Zoom calls. So we meet every week for a period of time. And so we can go over the material. I give live demos. I answer all your questions, all of that. So you're getting the live support, but you don't have to travel. I've had people come in for my classes from Canada, from Germany, you
Yeah.
know, and it's expensive, and you have to have an airplane ticket, and you have to put yourself up in a hotel room. Now I have students. I've had one from South Africa, from Europe, all around the country, all around the world, and they don't have to have all that expense. They just have to log on weekly, and we have that live time together.
Mm,
So it's really fun. The courses right now, for a very limited time, are 40% off.
that's
It's huge. I
mhm.
know. I'm gonna take that down really soon because,
Mm,
yeah. But I look at the economy and I think everybody's been kind of shocked.
yeah.
Gas prices, food prices, and everything. And I thought, there are such good people out there that really want to help other people. They want to get educated. They
Yeah.
want a second job, maybe. Something they can do on the side. Maybe you keep your normal job and then on nights and weekends you can build a practice until you can go
Yeah.
full time.
Yeah.
I thought I want to make this available to a few more people this fall.
Mm,
And So this would be the time to do it because this is record-breaking prices.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then,
And
yeah,
worth every penny, worth it all.
yeah, well, it's actually valued at, 3 times what you're going to be
Yeah.
paying because it's an entire profession
Hmm.
all wrapped up. And what I've done is over the last, 30 or more years, I've gathered all these tools, this wisdom, this knowledge, these techniques and everything. And rather than you going out and having to go find all the techniques separately, like I did over the years, and try to blend them all together, I have packaged it all in one course. So that for the price of the course, you would probably go do a weekend somewhere and learn 1 or 2 techniques.
Sure.
And I've given you everything, and you can start your business at the end of this at this training. Um, there was something else I was going to say, but anyway. So the transpersonal wellness then goes beyond the hypnotherapy in past life, and
Hmm.
the hypnotherapy does include NLP and a lot of psychology tools and a lot of other things. The transpersonal wellness goes into more of the shamanic style things. So journeying, soul retrieval, communicating with spirit guides, working with people who have entity possession, and working with people who remember or suspect UFO encounters, so close encounters. So
Wow.
how to work with these people. So it's really the fun, juicy, spiritual stuff, and getting into what it is and how to handle it and how to discern between different kinds of spirits and where they come from and how, what their process is. How long do they typically live? Do they embody, do they come into bodies or do they never come into bodies? So it's really detailed in the various spiritual things. And what I can also tell you is you're welcome, once you take a class from me, you're welcome to come back and repeat the calls anytime in the future for that class. So a lot of the people that come on the calls are taking the calls, the second and third times because they said every time they're exposed to that material, they get more out of it and they understand it more deeply. And that's free to repeat the calls or to repeat the online part
That's great. So
is.
you're saying like your students would have lifetime access to these courses and the modules in the courses, which is amazing, amazing. I always like to revisit some of the old material that I've learned just to keep it fresh, just to keep.
Yeah,
So that sounds amazing. I wanna jump back in. I wanna read.
you can come to the calls.
I mean, it's been 11 years.
I
11
believe it.
since I took your course, and 11 years that I've been practicing these things, but I would love a refresher. So thank
Come
you for
to the calls.
that.
Yeah.
And then, MaryLee, as we bring this beautiful live and this conversation to a close, what advice or what wisdom could you share with anyone who's listening, based on the state of our world, and based on everything that's going on, what would be your advice for people just to keep shining the light, keep anchoring the light, doing the deeper work? Like what can you leave our listeners with today?
I know it's hard in this world. So, one of the things that has happened for me is I went on the retreat over a weekend ago, so 8, 10 days ago, and I haven't turned the news on since, and that's really helped. So part of that is coming back to objectivity. Don't be swayed by these hysterical people, no matter what news channel you're on. They have a perspective they're trying to convince you of, and
Mhm.
they don't sell. It doesn't sell if it's not emotionally based, right? So they're trying to keep us angry and frustrated and upset and divided, really. So come back to yourself. Take a moment every day, maybe several moments, to just do what Marissa did, to just go inside, take a deep breath, relax, and know that, your world is all about you. Your growth, your ability to think and to maintain your balance is what is going to help, if we can get 1 million people to do that, and not go to the streets and get violent, but to come within and just exude, because that's the energy that we're radiating out. And as we radiate out energy, it has an equal and opposite effect on us. So if I'm radiating anger and frustration, that's also being pounded into my body, and it's going to affect my health. So if I can radiate joy and love and balance and, all good things out to the world, wherever I go, just really exuding that energy, that's what's going to make a positive difference in the world. And it's going to make that positive difference in you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
And that's how we manifest, And in the class, we get into parallel universes and switching tracks to better parallels where we can have better lives.
Uh, like
We get into a lot of time space. What?
the higher timelines is
Yes, exactly. The higher vibrations.
mm,
Exactly.
that, and
And
which ties into the law of attraction and like all these universal laws as well. It's all connected, right?
exactly. And so we learn how to help our clients do that, but we can apply that to ourselves. And we can actually be shifting over to better and better timelines that are going to get us the results we really want. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yes. Oh, I love this so much. And someone might be asking, well, how can I shift my vibration? How can I feel good? How can I exude these positive emotions? And the answer is do some hypnosis, do some deeper work, right? Like do the deeper work. Just jump in, face whatever you need to face, and do the deeper work, because that unlocks, like you said, it unlocks all those higher level emotions, like the joy and the love and like the light that we all want to exude. Once you face that darkness, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out. Right.
Exactly. Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on your show today. This has been delightful. It's so good to see your beautiful face.
So good to see you too, MaryLee. Thank you so much. And everyone, if you're watching this, if you're watching a replay, I'll leave all the kind of notes or links in the caption. You can also head to the link in my bio and give MaryLee Labay a follow. She is a legend. And as you can tell, she's just so wise and so loving. And if you're interested in checking out her course, you can find it online or find it in the link in my bio. So thank you, MaryLee. I'm so happy the technology worked out and that we were able to connect. Now you know
Oh,
get on an Instagram live.
I know. Now I'm educated in technology too.
So I'm so grateful. And yes, it's been so good to see you and connect and see your beautiful face. So thank you. And thank you everyone who's listening and doing your deeper work. Much love.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.